this is Goku's son, DBZ, and today I am doing, of course, top 12 Star Wars characters on Top 12 Sunday. And this will be based on opinions from Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and Tumblr. And, of course, also looking at things on YouTube, people's opinions. And this is based on strictly characters from either the movies, the 6 movies out thus far, excluding, of course, The Force Awakens, because that's still over 2.5 weeks away. And also characters from the 2 TV series, Clone Wars, and, of course, from the Rebels. So it will exclude characters from the comics, that are exclusive to the comics and also in the video games. So keep that in mind. Strictly characters from the small or big screen that made this list for the top 12 Star Wars characters. And next Sunday will be the top 12 Star Wars video games. And the week after will be a special top 12 Jedi Knights and Sith Lords. And they must have the title to make it to the list. Those will include characters from the expanded universe. Just to let you know. But here it is. Top 12 Star Wars characters. Coming in at number 12. Grand Moff Tarkin. Now, some of you out there may ask, who is Tarkin? Tarkin is a character from Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And it showed somebody that was supposed to play him at the very end of Revenge of the Sith Episode 3. And I believe he is also in Rebels. Tarkin is a high-ranking officer in the, of course, the Imperial, or rather, the Empire. Grand Tarkin is basically the main villain, really, of A New Hope. Vader is sort of like second highest in that movie. Vader is the big baddie of course, Episode 5, and really secondary in Episode 6, because that would be the Emperor. But Tarkin is a very interesting character, though they really do add more to his character and overall story arc in actually his novel, Tarkin. Which is an interesting novel, but he is a pretty good bad guy, and of course he's the one who actually ordered the destruction of Princess Leia's home planet of Alderaan. Which, by the way, Alderaan is one of the oldest planets in that universe, because Alderaan is even mentioned in the Old Republic era. So, Old Republic era, only a selected few planets are mentioned in that era. Alderaan being one of those few. But yes, Tarkin is a very interesting character. Definitely, of course, a bad guy, needless to say. But he is a fascinating character, and the actor who portrayed Tarkin really did help bring some interest to that character for the movie, and he really was enjoyable to watch in the movie. He was one of the best parts, personally, I thought, of A New Hope. And coming in at number 11 is between 2 different characters. First of the 2 characters, Lando Calrissian, from the original trilogy, of course. Which, of course, we met in Episode 5. And, of course, he took over Cloud City. And in the special 5-part mini-series comic book series, Star Wars Lando, we learn how Lando ends up in charge of Cloud City. So it's a very good comic series to check out. Of course, I am slowly, over time, reviewing each of the 5 issues of Lando comic. Actually, that will be issue 2 of Lando will be one of the comics I'll be reviewing this in the next few days. Lando's a very smooth talker, I will say that. And of course, he played Harvey Dent in the 1989, well, the guy who plays Lando played also in the 1989 Batman movie, interesting enough. But Lando is a very fascinating character, I will say. Personally, I kind of like Lando character more than actually Han Solo. I know I may be crossing some people's lines. Just saying. That's my own personal opinion. And the other character at number 11. His name is Kanan Jarrus. Sorry about that. Allergies. But yes, Kanan, which of course you know from, obviously, one of the Kanan comics, which help explain how Kanan comes to be in the TV series Star Wars Rebels. Kanan is an interesting character, and of course he was really the sole surviving Padawan, I guess you could say, from the Clone Wars, at the end of the Clone Wars and the Rise of the Empire. Kanan is a very interesting character. Now, personally, for me, the only stuff I know about Kanan is from the comic series. I have actually not seen Rebels yet. For the most part, I don't have cable, which is why. And it's not available for some reason on Hulu or Netflix, for some odd reason. Yeah, I can watch Clone Wars on those, both of them. Go figure. But, yeah, Kanan, very interesting character, and eventually, when I get a chance, I will try to watch Season 1 of Rebels. Because I hear nothing but good, positive things about Rebels. Personally, I love the Clone Wars show. I'm obsessed over it. But we shall see. Yes. Coming in at number 10 is between two special droids that we all love and who has been in all 6 movies out so far. And of course, also in, obviously, Clone Wars show. And that is R2-D2 and C-3PO. Is there anything I really need to say about R2-D2 and C-3PO? Not really. We all pretty much know these two characters all too well by now. C-3PO is the know-it-all British droid. And in that aspect, I kind of relate to the character C-3PO, because I like to annoy people with lots of facts and figures. So that's kind of what I am in my spare time. I just love reading and learning different facts and things, whether it's history or other subjects. But for the most part, I can relate personality-wise to C-3PO very well, because I am kind of a know-it-all sort of type. R2-D2 is, of course, the very sarcastic type who likes to mock people. Obviously, you don't really need a translation for his beeps to understand what R2-D2 is saying. Because I think after watching for so long, we understand what that little astro droid is saying. Even if we can't actually understand it. But R2-D2 is just a very sarcastic character. And I relate to the sarcasm as well. But these two together make an awesome duo. Perhaps one of the best movie duos ever. Coming in at number 9. Between these two separate characters, which is Princess Leia and her mother, Padme Amidala, which of course started out obviously as Queen Amidala and became Senator Amidala. And of course, the mother of Luke and Leia Skywalker. Princess Leia is an interesting character. I mean, she's definitely the stronger one of the two. But I will say personally, there's a lot of strength to the Amidala character if bother to pay attention, like for instance the Clone Wars series. We see that. There's a lot more development in her character overall, thanks to that show. But for the most part, I guess you could say that of the two, my favorite personally is Padme Amidala over Princess Leia. Why? Because between the two, well, come on, Amidala is the much more attractive one of the two because no one can match the way that Natalie Portman looks. I mean, come on. That beautiful brunette hair of hers and stuff, oh my word. And yep, that's pretty much all I can say. But both characters are very interesting. And mother like daughter, headstrong, obviously. And can be kind of gun-ho at times. Coming in at number 8 is between Chewbacca and Boba Fett. Both interesting characters. Chewbacca, basically the right-hand Wookiee of Han Solo, and Boba Fett, a very interesting individual bounty hunter. I think the reason why still a lot of people like Boba Fett, even though we did get an origin, obviously, of Boba Fett in Episode 2, Attack the Clones, and also did more appearances in the Clone Wars series. Boba, or Boba Fett, is interesting, and for the most part still. We kind of understand how he feels, why he gained this deep hatred for Jedi, obviously, because of Master Windu chopping off his dad's head, Jango Fett. Which, of course, the armor that Jango and Boba both wear is armor of the Mandalorians. It's Mandalorian armor. And the Mandalorians, obviously, have a very rich back history, going all the way back to the Old Republic era, thousands of years prior to the movies. But it is interesting. Now, personally, between, like, say, the two suit designs, I personally like Jango Fett's design better than Boba Fett. Yeah, I think the character Boba is interesting, but Jango I just love the coloration style better of his armor. I mean, yeah, the whole, like, green with red and stuff, all those colors mixed look cool, but I just love, there's something about, like, the silver and the blue. I just like the coloration better. But that's me personally, just the design of the Mandalorian armor. But very interesting characters. Of course, Chewbacca being a Wookiee, which has on average a 400-year lifespan, and Chewbacca is about 200 years old, so he has at least 200 more years he could survive. So he's still got quite a long ways he could live in the Star Wars movies, obviously. Coming in at number 7 is in between two other characters. First, Darth Maul, which is pretty awesome and epic character. One of the few good things most people say about Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, that for the most part bash the movies. There are usually two things that most people do praise about Episode 1. The pod race and Darth Maul being the two. Darth Maul was awesome. He had a very much intimidating look to him, and I personally loved the whole look with the, the horns, the red and black. I just loved the whole design of Darth Maul, and I loved, like, his Sith robe style also, and I think everyone went nuts in theaters in '99 when they saw him point out the saber, and then it pointed out a double-sided saber, dual saber. That's just epic and awesome. And that was probably one of the best lightsaber battles in the entire franchise. That three-way lightsaber duel between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was epic. And the Duel of Fates, like, music, oh my word. That just made that amazing. And the backgrounds, you want to talk beautiful, amazing lightsaber duel. That's the best lightsaber duel. I would say number 2 favorite lightsaber duel for me personally. And the other character at number 7 is Jabba the Hutt, which of course is basically became the head of the Hutt family over his auntie, Gardulla the Hutt, which most people only know of from the novels, like for instance the Darth Plagueis novel and others, which mention Gardulla. But we do get to meet Gardulla actually in the Clone Wars series, believe it or not, which is Jabba's aunt. Now, Jabba is a very interesting character. A lot of his life, he actually was on Coruscant, believe it or not on Tatooine. Jabba is a very interesting individual, I will say, of characters in the Star Wars universe. Of course, he ends up ruling over Tatooine. He ends up getting the backing of, obviously, the Damask Holdings and Hugo Damask, which, of course, is Darth Plagueis, which originally put Gardulla in charge of the planet and ended up to change his mind over time and choosing to back Jabba. And Jabba gains control of the planet, obviously. And we see the rise in power for Jabba, which is an interesting individual. If you look at just the original series, you would say he definitely was a complete bad guy, but we see a different side of Jabba actually in the Clone Wars series because of him and his relationship with, like, his son. It's just interesting to get to see a more well-rounded version of Jabba. Personally, I've always liked the character Jabba. I felt there was much more to his character, and that's one thing I like about the Clone Wars series. It adds more development to Jabba's character, and it helps make him more in-depth. And that's sort of also how Boba partially ends up getting more into stuff. Jabba, like, owed a favor to Jango for something many years prior, so he ends up taking Boba as a gesture and stuff of thanks because of Jango helping him years earlier. He ends up taking Boba under his wing, obviously, and for many years Boba ends up working for Jabba. Sort of like his personal top bounty hunter. And obviously there's a reason for that, because of a friendship between Jabba and Jango. So there's a whole reason behind how and why Boba ended up with Jabba. Coming in at number 6. 2 characters. Qui-Gon Jinn, played by the epic, awesome Liam Neeson. Qui-Gon is a very interesting character, I will say, of Jedi. Of course, we only get to see him in movie form in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And for most of the movie at least. But he was supposed to have been a specialty Jedi Master in the form of the Living Force, which is a little different. Now, say, Yoda, for instance, is more about being more mindful of things out there in the universe. Which, of course, ObiWan mentions in Episode 1 that Master Yoda said I should be more mindful of the future. But then Qui-Gon says, but not at the expense of the moment. Like, focus on the living force in the present, here and now. Is more or less is what he's saying. And that's basically what the living force, I guess you could say, is. And of course, we got a scientific explanation for how people can do the force. And a lot of people got outraged, of course, that being the midichlorian thing. And guess what? I actually liked the whole midichlorian thing, because I prefer that try to go a more scientific route with things. That's just me. And I consider myself a true, I bleed Star Wars. And the other one at number 6 is Count Dooku, played by the great late Christopher Lee. Count Dooku is a very fascinating character, and of course was, believe it or not, obviously, the master of Qui-Gon Jinn. And he also was the former apprentice, or rather former Padawan of Yoda. And he's a very elegant individual. He was originally on the Jedi Council many years ago. before episode 1 and like into episode 1, he ends up deciding to leave the council because he didn't believe in that like chosen one thing of Anakin, of course. And he ends up down towards the dark side, and we can thank Darth Plagueis for that, actually. And of course he ends up working with, obviously, Palpatine, and he becomes the leader of the Separatists. Helps lead into the Clone Wars, and which leads into the rise of the Empire later on, as we see. And he's a great master. And of course, he had a right-hand woman, I guess you could say. Of course, that being Ventress. And of course, his dear droid buddy, General Grievous. Yeah, but in general, very fascinating, very in-depth character Count Dooku is. Coming in at number 5, Han Solo. Yep, he made the top 5. I guess no surprise given how popular Han Solo is, obviously. I'm not going to talk too much since the video is starting to get long for this. Coming in at number 4, Master Yoda. The little green guy, and of course voiced by the great Frank Oz, which has done many characters over the years. And of course we can thank Jim Henson. Personally, I actually liked the CG Yoda from episode 2 and episode 3. I thought he looked great. I hated the whole puppet they used in episode 1 of Yoda. I thought it looked stupid. At least the CG Yoda looked more like the Yoda from the episode 5 and 6. Give my own personal opinion on that, but I will defend the CG Yoda. I think it looks awesome. But either way, at least we have Frank Oz voicing him. And Frank Oz has done so many great characters over the years. I mean, he voiced character, of course, in Labyrinth. He also did other characters and other things. And of course, he was the master of, obviously, Count Dooku. He teaches pretty much all younglings. And obviously, he also teaches... Some people don't know that Yoda was actually the one who trained and taught Windu. That's right, he did. He trained Master Windu. Very interesting. Coming in at number 3, ObiWan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker. Some are probably asking who could be higher up above Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, there are 2 other characters above him. And obviously from the original trilogy, I would say more people obviously liked Luke. That's one thing I have to say positive about the prequels is the Obi-Wan Kenobi character is much more in-depth and stuff in the... I mean, I didn't mind who played the original Obi-Wan was good, but I loved who played Obi-Wan in the prequels more. I'm a little biased for, though, him, McGregor. I just thought he was awesome. And I loved him, especially, I think the best part of episode 2, Attack of the Clones, was McGregor, Obi-Wan going after Jango, and those fight scenes with him and Jango were awesome. Like on Kamino and stuff, when Jango was, like, escaping. That was an awesome scene, those two going at it. I just very much enjoyed it. I thought Jango was one of the best parts of episode 2, just like Darth Maul was one of the best parts of episode 1. It was the villains. Coming in at number 2, Anakin Skywalker, a.k.a. Darth Vader. And that's true, Anakin Skywalker in episode 1 and episode 2, and he had a little bit of issues in episode 3, but at least he wasn't that bad in episode 3. They made him a little more of a badass in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and got to see him become Vader. Some purists of strictly the old school original trilogy may bash it, but I actually still didn't mind Anakin, especially in Episode 3. I actually enjoyed Anakin's character in Episode 3. And, hey, I won't argue that Vader is awesome, but Anakin was also pretty cool, actually, in the Clone Wars series. Because in the Clone Wars series, as it progressed, we got to see how he ended up going towards the dark side, because we see the development of the character having more dark tendencies and leniences as the Star Wars Clone Wars series progresses. It helps answer a lot of questions about things with Anakin Skywalker, how we jump from the way things were in Episode 2 to Episode 3, and like the whole scar and everything like that. We get all these questions answered in the 6th season Clone Wars series. And honorable mention before number 1. Jango Fett, General Grievous, Ventress, Mace Windu, and Newt, or rather, Viceroy Newt Gunray. And dishonorable mention, even though I personally like him, dishonorable mention since so many people bash him, Jar Jar Binks. Coming in at number 1. Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. Are you really surprised Palpatine came in at number 1? Not really. Palpatine is a very in-depth character, and he was one of also the best parts about the prequels, was getting to see the rise of Palpatine. In Episode 1, we started him out as a senator of course, the planet Naboo. And, of course, the rise at the end of Episode 1 to being Chancellor. In Episode 2 and Episode 3, he is, of course, referred to as the Supreme Chancellor. And, obviously, and then at the end of Episode 3, he becomes Emperor Palpatine. And, of course, also takes the name Darth Sidious. Now, interestingly, in the original trilogy, of course, he's not called Darth Sidious. He's just called Emperor Palpatine, which is interesting. Now, pretty much from the start, we all knew, obviously, that that Senator Palpatine or whatever was obviously Darth Sidious. It was his Sith name. It's weird, though, he stopped going by his Sith title, while Vader, on the other hand, went by the title of Darth Vader, which I find very interesting. Well, more or less just called Vader, not actually called Darth Vader, except by Jedi. But I hope you enjoyed this Top 12 Countdown Sunday, and I'm going to show you over the next few days. I'll try to review 4 comics, and I'll show you, try to get them done in this particular order. First comic I will be reviewing. Yes, I'm skipping issues. Star Wars issue number 7. Of course, here we have Obi-Wan Kenobi on the front, and the whole issue is about Obi-Wan talking about his past on the planet Tatooine. So it's a very fascinating issue, and I hope you all end up enjoying that, being the first of the issues that I'll be reviewing. Second up, I'll be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 2, which just came out this past Wednesday. The third, Star Wars Lando issue number 2. And last but not least, the first issue that just came out this past Wednesday. Venom Space Knight. Yeah, that's right. Venom is now in space. Of course, he's a member now of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But this is for his solo missions, obviously. Which is very interesting and actually very nice artwork. And I'm looking forward to reviewing those. And, of course, next Sunday you will find out what will be the 4 comics I will be working on for that week. And I hope you all have a good time here in YouTube land. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace out. Have a good upcoming December, which is just about 2 days away. Or one day away, I guess. And I hope to see you again here next Sunday, obviously, on Top 12 Sunday. And follow me at twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ, as well as on Google Plus as well. And have a happy holiday season.